Welcome to Creative Tien channel. Today we want to talk about tuck stitch for machine knitting. If you are new to machine knitting, the tuck stitch might seem a little bit difficult to understand, but once you learn how to do it, it's actually very easy. I'm going to show it on my LK150 knitting machine. It's a plastic bed mid-gauge machine. And I have a sports weight yarn. You can use any yarn you have at hand. So for the tension on the tension rod, I have about 5 here. And for the carriage, I have the tension dial to around 5 here too. I pull out about 40 stitches from left 20 to right 20, and I'm just going to do a simple E-rub cast on and a few plain stitches. And place the yarn in the carriage. Now we're ready to knit. When we need a plain stockinette stitch, here's our setting on the carriage. This one has a triangle and a circle. We keep it on the triangle. And this one, the Russell lever, it has 1 and 2. We keep it on 2. So this is going to the top, this go to the bottom. And it's the same on the other side. It goes up and this goes to the bottom. That's for standard stitch. You can see it creates a standard stockinette stitch. And now we are going to start the tuck stitch. The only difference in the setting is this one, the Russell lever, we move from 2 to 1 and keep the rest of the setting, and we do the same on the other side. The Russell lever turns to 1. That means when the needle is on the D position, it will not knit back to the B position. So it kind of skips the stitch, and if you do that for a couple rows and then you return this to standard knitting, then you will gather up those few rows from below, and that creates a tuck stitch. See the pattern? It has 1, 2, 3 rows of tuck, and then 1 row of the standard, and then 3 rows of tuck. And it can create an interesting pattern like the one on the top right corner picture. And the thing about tuck stitches, most of the patterns are in the wrong side or the back side. See, the knit side looks very plain and the purl side has a stronger pattern. I'll hang some weight first. The first one will follow the same pattern. According to this chart, we have 1 tuck stitch and then 3 standard, 1 tuck, 3, and then repeat that for 3 rows. I'm starting on the 3rd stitch here. It's really up to you. Depends on what kind of pattern you like. Every 3 stitches, 1. Every 3 stitches, 1, 1, 1. And then keep going. So we have this pick out, put it in the D position. Make sure the Russell lever is on 1 on both left side and right side. The left side controls the direction when you push the carriage from right to the left, and the right side controls the part when you knit from left to right. Now we have it on both sides. That's what it looks like. It's all parallel, kind of the horizontal line. And we can start knitting. That's the first row. You can see those needles are still in the D position. It didn't knit back to B position. So that means the stitches are not neat. If you see closely, you can see stitches held by the needle. And we do 2 more times, so it's 3 rows. Now you can see there are 2 stitches on those needles. 1 more. Now we have 3 stitches on those needles. Now we will need 1 row of the standard. According to the chart, after 3 rows, we need 1 row of the standard plain stitch, and then we'll switch the location of the tuck stitch. So to make a standard one, we just push back the rustle level to 2, so it goes down on both sides. And then we go 1 row. Then you can see all the D position needle goes back to B. So that means this row is knitted. You can see it creates a little pattern here. Now after this row, we are going to start the tuck stitch again. So we push the lever back to parallel the horizontal to rustle level 1 on both sides. And you can start selecting the needle again. You can see the first one I have is started from the 3rd needle, and if we pick the one in between, you'll be, this is the 3rd needle, you'll be this one. So you'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th needle, and then every 3 needles, and then every 4th needles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we do that all the way to the end. And now we have the rustle level to 1, and we are ready to do another 3 rows. You can see we have 3 stitches on top of the needle, just sitting on the top of the needle. And then we change to plain stitch again. So move the rustle lever back to 2 on both sides. And 1 row. This time it needs everything back to B position. So all the stitches here are knitted. You can see that's a little pattern forming. And this is the back side of the knitting. And we just repeat these 2 stitches several times. And that's what it looks like on the back side. And you can see the front side. It's actually pretty plain. It has some texture, but it's basically looking like the knit stitch. And you don't have to follow the same pattern. You can create your own. The only thing is that you don't want to have too many rows of the tuck stitch at once, because when it has too many yarns in one needle, it might drop stitch easily. So maybe 3 rows continuously is the maximum. Again, you can experiment. You don't have to follow the same pattern. Now I'm going to do a little variation. Instead of this in the center of between the 2 previous tuck stitches, I'm just going to align this tuck stitches so it's the same as the first part. You'll be here and here. You will just create a different pattern. So I'm just going to start with the 3rd needle, and every 4 stitches for every one of the tuck stitch. I will have 3 rows. And then 1 row of the standard plain stitch to lead it back. And we'll repeat the same thing for several times. Start with the 3rd stitch every 4th. And make sure it goes to 1 on both sides, 3 rows. And then plain stitch. That's the back side. You can see this creates a different pattern. It's different from the previous pattern. So you can create any pattern you like. Just make sure the rows doesn't have continuously for too many rows. If you stack up 4 or 5 stitches, it might be too tight and it can drop stitch easily. If you have the standard machine that can knit pattern, then you can use pattern directly. You'll be even faster. And you can also design your own pattern with a punch card or with computer. I hope you like today's tuck knitting. It's actually pretty easy, and you can see it creates a beautiful texture. And here is the front side. It's more plain, and then the back side is very interesting. We can make a scarf or a blanket with the stitches you create. And the tuck stitch tend to be wider than the stockinette stitch. It has a tendency to be a little bit wider. So that's good for blanket. Thank you for watching today, and see you next time.